Thank you very much, and thank you, Richard. Richard is quite a spokesman, I must say. He's wonderful. I'm very glad to be get my Apple to work here today. Let me say, while they're getting that projector warmed up.
Stephen,
Yes. Okay. As I've described these results to scientists around the world, I had one scientist in America who told me, he said, you know, these results from a scientific point of view are very exciting. It's quite an adventure to see this, these data come together and support this hypothesis of controlled demolition. He said it's remarkable. I mean, it's such a hypothesis, it seems so far-fetched, and yet all the evidence is lining up. As he looked at it, he agreed that the case was compelling for controlled demolition. And then he said, but I'm sad for my country. And this is certainly an important issue. Still having trouble with the projector? Maybe I'll just, okay. Let me just talk a little bit about my involvement and how I got started, which was in 2005, in April of, we're starting to get it, great. And it was with the collapse of World Trade Center 7 that Richard has talked about, and David. And I appreciate their eloquence. Now we have slides that we can look at. These are photographs through a microscope of these amazing red-gray chips that we found in the World Trade Center dust. We all saw that dust, this voluminous dust. Well, in the dust there are large numbers of these chips that looked like this red material. Initially I thought, or early on, I thought that this might be paint chips, and we'll talk about that in a moment. We looked and analyzed very carefully 4 independently collected samples. The chain of custody is very well established, as described in our paper. In addition to what is in our peer-reviewed paper on the chain of custody question, we also have videotapes of the persons collecting this, testifying how they collected it, where they collected it, when they collected it, and how it came to the scientists on our team, not just to me, but to other scientists as well. These chips are seen in all 4 of these samples, and you see the pictures here from our paper. We did a consistency check, of course, and analyzed the elements present. It's actually a fairly simple structure in this red material, but a very important structure as you look at the chemical signature, which involves iron and oxygen, as well as aluminum and carbon. And notice there, well, there's no zinc in evidence. That becomes important in a moment. But this question, perhaps there's a prosaic explanation for these chips. Perhaps it is just paint, and in particular primer paint, which was applied to the World Trade Center steel, which has a red-orange color, similar to the color that we see here. So we finally found a sample of the primer paint. Now, as most of you know, over 99% of the steel in the World Trade Center buildings was quickly shipped to Asia and melted. It was recycled. This evidence from a crime scene was destroyed. Over the objection of many scientists and engineers, now, nevertheless, some of the steel has been preserved in memorials. This particular memorial is at Clarkson University in New York State. The fellow that put the monument together for the university was kind enough to go to the monument and extract some of the paint off the surface. So this is actual primer paint then from the World Trade Center. And what we have is the analysis of the paint on the bottom plot, and for comparison, the analysis, the chemical, the elemental signature for the red chip material on the top plot. And you can see that they are distinctly different. The paint shows a very strong signal of zinc. There is no zinc in the red chip material. There are other differences that you can see. The calcium peak is enormous in the paint, for example. Now, when we look at the red material, this anomalous, now I can call it anomalous because it doesn't behave like paint, certainly very distinct from the primer paint actually used in the World Trade Center. So now we use a scanning electron microscope to get this remarkable image that appears in our paper, showing faceted grains of iron oxide and aluminum in the plates. If you look towards the center of this picture, you can see both plates and these faceted grains. And the gray material, it looks gray actually on this image from the electron microscope, is an organic. And I have people say, well, maybe the building's collapsed and then somehow you just form this nanothermite material. Well, it turns out to be quite a bit more complicated than that, because of the very ultra fine, this is at 50,000 power, we can finally see the plate-like structures containing aluminum, and the faceted grains that are also very tiny, about 100 nanometers across. This is nanoscale. It's just hard to comprehend how difficult it is to reach that scale. And notice the uniformity, if you can see then, in the faceted iron oxide grains. Anyway, then you've got the organic mix, and my reaction as soon as someone says, well, maybe the buildings just fell, and you've got iron oxide, which is rust, I agree, and aluminum in the buildings, and they come together and form nanothermite. My question is, well, where does all the organic material come from, and how do you get these all formed intimately combined in this mixture, and to get it to react rapidly as it does? In this plot, which is described in more detail in our paper, the blue curve shows the reaction of the red material from the World Trade Center. We did this with from all 4 samples. This is one of the samples. Notice that it goes to a high peak there in watts per gram. The red peak is from known nanothermite. This is from a paper published by Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, scientist there, which is just down the street, basically, not too far away. And this is a 2001 paper, meaning that they had worked on this, of course, for years prior to this.